Hi, welcome to a Platinumyaad review. Today we're talking about the Arcam AVR20. So let's talk about price. The AVR20 MSRP is around £3,200 when they first came out. Now this sits in the middle between the AVR10 and the AVR30. The AVR10 was around £2,200 and the AVR30 was around £5,500. So all three of these units sound quite similar, but the AVR20 I think is probably the best bang for buck because you get the premium toroidal power supply, the same as what you get in the AVR30, but the AVR10 uses a frame power supply which can introduce a little bit of distortion and hum and that kind of thing. That said, the AVR20, the unit that I had, at very quiet and low listening levels, you could hear a little bit of that toroidal buzz in the background, which wasn't great. The Arcam AVR10 and AVR20 both use Class AB amplification. Without going into too much detail, this is a good sign. The AVR30 use a more premium Class G amplification, which is a variation of Class A and B. All of the Arcam products have 7 built-in amps. The Arcam AVR10 offers 60 watts per channel, all channels driven. The AVR20 offers 90 watts per channel, all channels driven. And the AVR30 offers 100 watts per channel, all channels driven. Platinum note, for those that are new to this game, some high street manufacturers quote 120 or 140 watts per channel, but they are not always talking about all channels driven. And if you're driving more than 2 speakers, you will see that number fall considerably. All of these products, including their flagship AV40 processor, utilize the ESS 9026 Pro DAC. So with that said, I can't imagine there will be a dramatic difference between these products. We're mainly talking about power and refinement. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's drop the notepad and talk about my actual experience. So, for music and hi-fi, I think this AV receiver is of a mid-level hi-fi system, so it can give you a 2-channel experience that you'd expect from a hi-fi. The built-in amplification felt quite powerful. It felt like more than 90 watt per channel, if I'm completely honest with you. So thumbs up there. In comparison to the AVR550, which was rated also at 90 watts per channel, this unit felt a lot more powerful. So I don't know what they've done or what they've changed. Inside, I've seen many pictures of the internals of this unit. They look near enough identical to me, so I don't know what they've changed, but there is something definitely more premium. It drives my speakers well. I'm using some KEF surround sound speakers and also some Sonos Faber tower speakers, which are rated at 4 ohms, so not the easiest to drive. The AVR20 had no issues or no problems doing that. The sound was quite clear, open, not very bass heavy, so it lacked a little bit of bass, had a reasonable amount of detail. That said, there were some notes, so as you know, I produce music, and there are some quite background notes and the decay of certain instruments and sounds and effects that weren't quite there or didn't quite last as long as it should with the Arcam, but this is me getting really picky, to be honest with you. But the sound itself will outdo your standard AV receiver for sure. Now, I want to talk about the older model, the AVR550. Now, this unit sounded great for music, similar to the AVR20. There's not much between them. Okay, but in terms of home theatre, for some reason I could never really get the dialogue locked in with that unit. I used to struggle sometimes to hear what people were saying when I'm watching a movie. I would then find there would be thunderous volumes and subwoofer bass shaking my whole house, and I look down on the unit and I've got the volume up to 67, and again I'm struggling to hear the dialogue here. That's the reason why I'm constantly turning it up. Subconsciously I'm not even realising I'm doing it with that unit. It's just what I had to do to power my centre channel. Now this unit, I didn't have that issue at all. Dialogue was clear. Again, for movies this thing gets 9 out of 10. I would say 10 out of 10, but I'll tell you why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 in just a second. But 9 out of 10. So smashes the old unit out of the park. Doesn't stand a chance. The Arcam is more subtle, less forward than the Rotel Wrap, but the Rotel Wrap at times with music, as I turn the volume up, could sound a little bit shouty. And this wasn't with the lead vocals, this was with the ad-libs and the harmony and all that kind of stuff. Those vocals were quite shouty, which meant that I didn't always enjoy music at loud levels. I had to play it quite low. My partner felt the same. I think her ears are slightly more sensitive to mine. And she just rarely played music when I had that unit. Not saying the unit's a bad unit. It's a good all-rounder. It's a good AV product. It's got good, powerful amplification in there. It drove the hell out of my room, no problems. But the issue, it wasn't quite as smooth as what we were used to. Now, when I switched over to watch a movie, I was watching Black Panther, the new Black Panther, and straight away, I think there was a scene in a courtroom which just sounded unbelievable. I thought I was actually in the court with Black Panther. So, for theatre, they've taken it straight to 100, and I can stand behind Arcam and say, if you want a theatre unit, and you don't want to go down the AV separate route, separate amplification, separate processor, then this unit's going to do it for you. And I've not even heard the AVR30, but I can't imagine the difference will be that big. Maybe some of the things I spoke about with the hi-fi stuff, maybe some of those issues will be a little bit better or resolved. And again, I don't want to use the word issue. It's not an issue. I'm just comparing it to more premium hi-fi products that will give you the correct decay and all the rest of those things that I spoke about before. But home theatre, this thing smashes it out of the park. So, why am I giving it 9 out of 10 and not 10 out of 10 for movies? At times, so this receiver does have some Dolby settings, and you can click movie, music, and some other settings on there. When you click movie, the dialogue becomes even more clear, which I love. I just love clear dialogue. But especially in this setting, the issue I found was when the scenes became quite dramatic and there was a lot going on with the other speakers, surround sound channels, subwoofer, etc., there would be some compression with the dialogue, and the dialogue was somehow dropped behind the rest of the scene. And this was only with a few movies, I think X-Men, First Class and some others that I watched. The dialogue would just kind of fall away and then you're struggling to hear again. But this would only happen now and then. And if I was to put it through to the through setting, so without any Dolby processing going on with this unit, I wouldn't have that problem. So I would watch movies without those settings engaged and didn't really have that problem. So now I'm going to talk to you about room calibration. So I'm going to give you my true experience with this unit. Room calibration was a lot quicker than the old unit, but it doesn't mean it was perfect though. So the issue with this unit is that it's full of bugs. Okay, so if you run your calibration and it gets through all these speakers and it's perfect and it's the way you want it, happy days. If you want to reapply this setting and you do it a few times, you are guaranteed at least 1 out of 3 times that you're going to run into some bugs and you've got to switch off your unit and switch it back on and do all this kind of stuff. And hopefully it will save. Once I ran direct live bass control and I would listen to music and movies and all that kind of stuff, I found it would make most of my speakers sound the same. And that was interesting because my front speakers are around 3 times more than my surround sound speakers. So for me, it's taken quite a lot out of the culture of my speakers that I've got. And I've actually got some Italian front speakers. A lot of that finesse is gone or flattened. So that's something else to bear in mind if you are one of those that like the organic sound of the products that you buy.
The Arcam AVR20 is a fantastic product. Considering how great this product performs for hi-fi and home theatre, it's a shame that it suffers from operational bugs, basically freezing, glitch issues or occasional audio loss. Bugs aside, the AVR20 offers great value for money and has outperformed every AV receiver I've owned, and I've owned a lot. Various Denons, Onkyo's and the aforementioned Rotel Wrap 1580. It's worth noting that the Arcam is more expensive than my previous products, but around the same price as the Rotel. That said, the law of diminishing returns is nowhere to be seen. This product is head and shoulders above the rest. And I would even go as far to say that it rivals most pre-pros, especially if you're driving a medium to small room.